More of a sensitive topic. I've talked about this a couple of times. I know you have as well. But BYU's Parker Kingston obviously arrested with some pretty serious accusations, charges. Let's just talk about this big picture. I know you've covered it some, but let's continue to explore.
Yeah, I want to commend you, TJ, on the job that you've done covering this as well. For me, man, I want to attack it from a new angle today. It's the reason that I wanted to hop on with you and have this conversation. I feel extremely bad for BYU fans. And you know what? I want to say first, I feel for the victim. I feel for Parker Kingston's fiance or ex-fiance, his family. I feel for everybody involved in this. And the reason being, for me personally, from a moral standpoint, I believe that love is the answer. And love doesn't have bounds, right? It goes to all parties involved in this. And I think that's the power of what that word means. I just, in starting with the fans, man, outside looking in, and this is a tough thing that I haven't really been able to verbalize yet, but for BYU fans, is the way that the outside media, the way the outside world is going to see this is, oh, wow, it happened at BYU again. Oh, wow, this is a trend. And while I know BYU, and while I am not ignorant to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what BYU stands for, there are a lot of people who just don't take the time to research, who don't take the time to actually understand what BYU is. And a lot of times, TJ, it's much easier to hate than it is to understand. It's way easier to just say, I don't like that thing, I hate that thing, I don't understand it, so I'm not going to try to, than it is to really study and learn about BYU and who they are. There are people who are going to see this as a trend. There are Utah fans, there are Arizona fans, there are Michigan State fans who are going to use this against BYU and say that's just a corrupt university and what a corrupt university does. And that's the saddest part. That's the saddest part of the sports side for me. Now, the true sad part comes in what exactly happened and what lives were ruined and the way this happened, and due process will be held. The government will figure that out. This is a criminal case, not for me to decide. In the meantime, sports side, it stinks for BYU fans that this is a black spot, another mar on the fan base, on those three letters and what they stand for and what they mean. That hurts, man. You know, like I'm as a Baylor guy, a lot of people remember Baylor for Patrick Dennehy, the basketball player that was killed, or Brittany Griner going to prison in Russia. That's a weird controversy that comes up, or 2016 and the sexual assault scandal amongst the football team and Art Briles. I hate that, man. Ken Starr is an example. Right? Just came up in the Epstein files. I hate that Baylor has that reputation. That people think of Baylor and they think of that. I would extra hate, and I don't think it's gotten this extreme yet, that people think, oh, BYU, that's where 2 years in a row. That's where, again, there's a sexual assault case, a rape case against a student athlete. That's the thing that hits me the hardest, is the good people who mean so well and who love well and who do things the right way, that there could ever be misconstrued association with something like this. That's a brutal piece of this. So TJ, I wanted to take a moment as we start the conversation to say that my thoughts are with BYU fans right now who had nothing to do with this and are wondering why us. Why again? They're held to a much higher standard. It's a university that is not just accepted, but embraced that higher standard, embraced the idea that they're going to have to be more careful, to have an honor code, to stick by that honor code. And when news like this comes out, man, I want BYU fans to know that man, I feel for you, because you couldn't have prevented it. But gosh, it just stinks that people who are ignorant are going to lump a bunch of BYU into this category.
It is frustrating from that perspective. And I take a lot of things Florida State's way, because that's where I have spent most of my life and what things happen. But man, when Jameis was accused back in 2013-14, people certainly did that. And Florida State was good then. BYU's good now. And so you look for any angle you can to talk smack about the team that's good. Right. And so, people said things about Florida State fans who very clearly, no matter what your thoughts on Jameis or the accusations or whatever were, Florida State fans had no part of it, just like BYU fans have no part of this situation. But that's a lot of, and it does cross a line, and people do cross a line with BYU quite often. We talk about the chants and we talk about things that happen at events, but like Florida State fans they're just normal people, right? And BYU fans are just normal people who enjoy athletics and enjoy rooting for their team and the colors and the university and the mission and everything else that happens. And so, from experience a little over a decade ago, when people would say things about FSU fans that was just like, you support this. And you're like, No, man, I just watch football, and if something comes out that is proven to be true about this football player that I enjoy watching, then yeah, I'm no longer going to enjoy, wouldn't be on the team, but I'm no longer going to support it, right? But like the way that the fans do get tied in, especially at a place like BYU, like BYU fans are maybe familiar with this, but like I went to Liberty. And so, yeah, you do, when you do go somewhere that is more than just a university, right? Is, FSU, and I don't mean to minimize them at all, but they're a university. They're a place of higher learning, right? Whereas BYU and Liberty and other places around the country, they do mean a little bit more than just, hey, that's my favorite football team. There's an entire faith that's attached to it, and it is part of your identity, more so than just going to Gainesville or going to Tallahassee or Miami or wherever, right? And so for them, when something like this happens, yeah, my heart goes out to them too. Not as much as the potential victim, or not as much as like the family members or those closely impacted. Sure. Yeah. Like that is the focus. And that's where I feel the worst about this. But you do think about those fans, because it is not just a team. It is not just, oh man, Bear Bachmeier, and I like him, and that's why I support BYU. No, very few BYU fans like BYU because Bear Bachmeier is there, right? They like BYU because it's part of their entire identity. And when that starts to get attacked, it's the same reason we've done videos, countless videos on chants and how disgusted we are with that. Listen, I've had people tell me, FFSU many times, and I just kind of can brush it off. When it is attached to their entire identity or a large part of their identity, I don't want to just reduce them to a religion or me to a religion or anything like that. But when it's tied to so much of their actual life, yeah, that absolutely sucks. And so I do think, man, we have great BYU commenters. We've had great BYU viewers, and it might be easy for a lot of people to just look at it and not understand the total encompassing kind of like idea of BYU, or the entire like mission that is BYU or Liberty or any of these places. But we don't often see that behind every commenter and behind every viewer is an actual person. Yep. And at a place like BYU, again, it is tied so much deeper to who they are as people, or who I am as a person, that I do think that is a struggle, because it's easy for just another Big 12 fan or another fan of another program that just wants to take cheap shots, because that's what we do. When Penn State has stuff go on, we take cheap shots. When Miami can't remember to kneel, we take cheap shots. When Florida State goes 2-10, we take cheap shots like that. And that's fine. That's part of sports. But when it's tied to something like this, man, it is so much harder, and it's so much more serious.
I've seen a lot of people attack the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the wake of this, or BYU, in the comment sections of just, oh, this is to be expected. Like, dang, man, that sucks to see. Does somebody just lump everybody and everything in with these now two events? And TJ, I have some grace for that. This is going to sound kind of weird, but in the same way I have grace for the 20-year-old who's at the Oklahoma State basketball game chanting F the Mormons because his buddy next to him is doing it, I've got grace for that guy. Like when you say love, you do that, you extend that to all parties. I've got grace for the 20-year-old kid trying to figure out life. It's like, oh, these guys are yelling this, it must be fun, and they do it. I don't pin this on them being monsters. I don't. Somebody in the comment section who's like, "Oh, this is just part of the Mormon way." Like, I don't think that person's a monster. I think they are misconstrued. They are ignorant. They don't understand, and they don't want to understand. And that's what's so frustrating is headlines like these push them further in the opposite direction. That's why BYU has the honor code. That's why they stick to such a commitment. And so, man, I want people to know. It's the reason. Another anecdote. This is really behind the scenes. On average, our viewership, TJ, it's fairly similar to audiences. They watch about 1 or 2 out of every 5 videos we post. And somebody's listening right now going, no, I watch every one. You do. But most
and you're the best. Yeah, right, you're our favorite.
Right. You're awesome. Most people swing by every now and then and kind of ebb and flow and come in and out. So the reason we continue to talk about these issues is the more that we can educate, and the more that we can keep people from being ignorant when they stop at that one video out of every 5, hopefully that nugget is in there for them to open their minds and learn. That's my goal, so that there are less comments of, oh, this is to be expected. No, it's not to be expected. I know these fans. I've been there. I've seen it. TJ, you know these people. You've seen them. You've reacted with them, interacted with them in the comment section. These are really good people. And these two scenarios they're not indicative of what BYU is. They're not indicative of that fan base, of that faith. And I really hope that collectively we can have thoughts, the prayers, the love for the victim, for Parker, for his family, for all those people, yet still understand it's not directly inherently tied to what BYU is as an institution.
Yeah, I think a lot of times just in our society and with the way that college football rivalries and smack talk works, we do forget the humanity element of our world. And not just in sports. We do that in politics. We do that in economics. We do that in just, any kind of realm that you can imagine. And so I understand it to a degree. Like you said about, the 25-year-old drunk kid that's doing, participates in the chants because all his buddies are doing it. Yeah. So I get that, but I do hope that we talk about football a lot. We talk about the portal. We talk about NIL. We crash on the SEC. We talk about game previews. We talk about a lot of things. Some things are a little bit bigger. And I would just, if we could urge anybody, I think it is to remember the humanity of things. And, maybe you didn't tune into, either channel today to hear that message, but I do think that is important. And I think that's something that's lost in these tougher times. Now, BYU goes out and loses a game on a last second Hail Mary, and you want to talk smack about that, be my guest, man. That is what rivalries in college football are all about. There are some bigger issues that are not attached to on the field things that I do think people need to be educated on. And yeah, that's why we continue to do it. I would rather talk about football and complain about the SEC than talk about serious issues like this. But I do think they're important, and that's why we keep doing it.
For sure. And I think this is it's the only way that I can showcase my respect for what BYU fans have done for me. And that it is personal, right? BYU fans, I feel personal and a connection to them. So I want to make sure that I represent them well.
Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
Yep, at Locked On Big 12, wherever you find your podcasts, and on YouTube, as well as at Drake C. Toll on Twitter.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, TJ.